All right, looking like we're live here on Facebook. I got a spontaneous one for you guys today. I just got a message from a friend of mine who I'm going to keep anonymous, but basically they're about to start something new and they're worried about how it's going to go. And in particular, they're about to start something that they've had problems with in the past over and over again, kind of like a really bad history with. And so there's that kind of fear of going into it thinking, shit, am I going to fuck this up again? And people get this a lot with their career, if they've had a bad history with jobs or with relationships and dating, if they've got a bad history there, or even exercise and eating healthy, if they've constantly sort of failed. So I want to talk a little bit about how to get back into it without actually sabotaging it from worrying about sabotaging it. That thing we do where we're so worried that we're going to fuck it up again that worry actually causes us to fuck it up again. And we know that, and so we're worried about the worry causing the fuck up. It's this whole big mess, right? The joy of being a fucking human being, right? So I'll give you the context without giving you specific details, yeah? So this person basically been unemployed for quite some time and quite miserable about that, very, sort of self-loathing, kind of depressed about that. But recently was given an incredible career opportunity, something that they're really interested in and looks really promising and kind of is a new start, could be quite good. They applied for the job, they got it, it starts soon. But the last couple of work situations that this person has been in went to shit really bad, and they've got quite fragile confidence already, and it would be knocked quite badly by these experiences. To the point where they'd kind of given up. But they've taken this opportunity, which is fantastic. I'm so glad that they did, not quite giving up completely, which is awesome. But now they're worried that the pattern's going to repeat. The things that happened in their last jobs that kind of caused them to crash and burn, they're worried that that's going to happen again. Or the other things that happened, there's other problems that they've had in their life that interfered with their career, that those problems will happen again. And so there's kind of, as they put it, there's zero faith left. There's this kind of like, there's no hope of me doing well in this thing, and I don't want to fuck this up, but this could be great. So that's kind of as much detail as I can give you without getting too specific. And like I said, it's a real common situation. And what I can see the person doing is a couple of things. One is there's a cognitive bias at play here, or a few. Another is a certain reaction to fear that's happening here. Okay. And the cognitive bias is, well, there's a few going on. One is there's something called the recency bias. Now, the recency bias means that whatever happened to us most recently is the kind of the biggest in our mind. It's given the most weight. So let's say you have a relationship with someone for 3 years and the last 6 months are bad. You won't remember the 2.5 years of good times. You'll only really remember the 6 months of bad times, or you'll remember that so much more strongly than you will the good times, and it will seem like it was always bad. And if your last few job experiences were awful, you'll think that every piece of work you've ever done was horrible, which might be true. Or it could just be that the ones you remember most recently and occurred most recently take up the most space in your mind and seem the most real. There's also confirmation bias, which is if you think that you're basically someone who sucks at stuff and that you make mistakes all the time and that you're useless and so on and so on, the kind of thoughts that we get when we're chronically depressed or we have low self-esteem, your brain will actually look for evidence that that's true and will dismiss evidence that it's not. So, for example, you could, like this person looks back and say, I lost every job I had, and misses the point, well, you got all of those jobs too. There was a good bit there. Or that you were able to survive despite a rocky career up until this point. or that you're strong enough to get back on the horse again despite all those setbacks. Your brain will kind of dismiss the things you did well and the strengths and the wins and kind of go, that's just exceptions, or it wasn't you, it's just luck, or whatever. It just kind of brushes that. But everything you did wrong, oh my God, that's big, that's important, that's more accurate than anything else. That's the real stuff there. And it's a bias that we all have. If you believe that you're a loser, your brain will try to prove that it's true by cherry picking evidence and dismissing other evidence and just making stuff up too. You'll actually think, I'm going to be bad at this job. This hasn't even happened yet, and you're now looking at that as evidence. That's human brain. That's what it does. We all do it. It can go the other way. You can be arrogant with it too. You go, I'm always awesome, even though there's plenty of times where you weren't. And you think, I'm always going to be awesome in the future, even though that hasn't happened yet, and so on. Just whatever you believe, your brain will seek to make it more true rather than seek to disprove it, even if it's wrong. And it almost always is wrong. In fact, it always is wrong. Whatever you believe now, there's a better version of it, a more accurate one. Unless you're the most skilled and trained and brainiest scientist in the world, you don't know shit, right? And even they don't know shit. So whatever you think is true about yourself, the only thing you can be sure about it is that it's at least a little bit wrong. But your brain is not wired to do that. Your brain's wired to lock it in, because it's annoying to make new beliefs. It's a hassle. New pathways of neurons have to be built. It's a whole big hassle. So your brain's like, look, you already believe something. Let's run with that. Let's make that true. So we can see that bias coming in here. And then we can see the problem with these biases like this, where you're like, I'm kind of doomed, is the kind of outcome of those belief systems, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain is actually scared of success. Failure, now it was miserable, but it's familiar. When we talk about the comfort zone, what we're really talking about is familiarity. It's not comfortable as in physical comfort. I haven't heard anyone describe their comfort zone as it being an actual comfortable place. There's always lots of fear of missing out and regret and self-loathing and boredom. That's what the comfort zone feels like. But that's not the comfort part. It's the familiarity. I know this. Like, if I've always been a loser, then I know being a loser. In a way, I'm psychologically comfortable with always losing. It's a win that fucking terrifies me, because I don't know what to do with a win. That's a whole new world. That's a whole new set of challenges. That's a whole completely different set of problems that I've never had to solve before. So quite often this fear of success builds up from this determination in your brain to stay the same, to stay familiar. And if losing is your familiarity, your brain's going to work very fucking hard to keep that the same, because winning, doing well, having a great career, that would be new. It's exciting, but it's terrifying. And it's okay to be terrified of that. It's really important that you understand you're allowed to be scared of success. It would be weird not to be, because success really just means change. There is no success. There is no final line you cross and you're like, oh yeah, I've got life all sorted. I can just fuck around now. There's no such thing. But there is getting out of your current rut, which is essentially what success is an improvement of your problems. You go from this crappy set of problems to another completely new and slightly less crappy set of problems, but still problems. I was an employee rut for a very long time. I was, making money for someone else most of my life. And that had all its problems, like not having the freedom to do what I want, and kind of frustration with being bossed around, and of course only keeping a small fraction of what I earned for myself and everything going somewhere else. That was frustrating. That was my set of problems, but I was familiar with that set of problems. I bitched about it every week and did nothing about it, and that was just my set. And then when I became an entrepreneur and run my own business, all of those problems went away and they were replaced by much bigger ones. So success was just bigger problems, but better ones. The problem of how am I going to pay my rent this week was seemingly a much bigger problem than a guaranteed paycheck, but it was the problem that comes with being free. It's like, I get to decide how I'm going to pay my rent this week, and I decide how many hours I work, and I decide what that work's going to be, and I'm creative. And so it was like a cost-benefit thing. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The point is, you've got these kind of biases. Everything's always gone wrong with me because I'm somehow wrong. I've got toxic shame. There's something fundamentally wrong with me that destroys my career. It doesn't matter where I go. And now your brain's going to be set up for like this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is, okay, so how do we keep that good time going? How do we make that happen again? How do we get back to familiar after this brief like holiday in success? How do we get back to failure? And what it's going to do is the trick that it's already playing on you is it's going to start overwhelming you. Because if you're an anxious person or a panicky kind of person, then your brain knows that the best way to get you to fuck things up is to overwhelm you, is to get you panicking. And how does it do that? Well, it piles every potential future problem on you now. Okay? These are problems that haven't occurred yet and certainly don't need to be solved yet. But what your brain tells you is that essentially they're so likely to happen that they might as well be occurring now, and that they do need to be solved now. You know, the message this friend sent through to me shows quite clearly they think that all the problems they've had in their previous jobs are basically already happening in this new job that doesn't even start till next week, and that they have to solve that now. They have to prevent that from happening. And yet there's been absolutely no evidence that it is going to happen or that it is happening now. But that's the trick that their brain is playing on them. It's going, but it is. You've got to solve it now, quick. This weekend, or it all goes to shit, you know. And that's a really, really common dilemma. So that's just to give you some background to understand this isn't what it seems. This is just human fucking psychology. We all do this all the time. And rather than taking it so seriously and thinking, this is me, this is just my specific issue, I'm this fucking broken thing that's different from all the other humans, and this is just me, and this is some unique battle, rather than going like, it's just human psychology. This is just the price of being a human. We didn't ask to be human. We didn't ask to have this fucking brain with all its flaws, but we got it. That's the hand we were dealt, and that's all it is. Because the truth of the situation is, the only thing you know for sure about this new job is that it hasn't started yet. That's the only factual information you have. There is nothing else to go on that gives you any evidence whatsoever that your previous work experience is even relevant for consideration. Your brain's trying to make it sound that way, but there is absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever, which means it's all a fiction. And one way to know that fear is in play, that fear is manipulating you and playing games with you and tricking you, is when you're in a fiction. Because fear only lives in a fiction. Fear doesn't deal with reality. I always think about it this way, like when you're falling off a cliff, the reason you scream is not because of the fall, it's because you're imagining hitting the ground. But that hasn't even happened yet. So the fear is about something that has not happened yet, and that's always the case with fear. And it's the key thing to keep reminding yourself of. And I am building up to a solution here. I'm not just like, by the way, your brain's fucked, good fucking luck. You know, it's not like that. But it's just, you got to understand the truth is, okay, while I am feeling all panicky and anxious and fearful about the situation, it's the same as watching a horror movie. It's not real. Now, we can react with fear to a horror movie, but the movie is a fiction. It's not actually happening. There aren't actually zombies out there. We're reacting to the potential rather than the actual. Which means the solution is kind of obvious. You need to find a way to come back to the actual. Because in the actual, nothing bad's happening. Like one of my ones that I've actually done pretty well with this lately, but especially since becoming an entrepreneur and going from like a decade of guaranteed paychecks to, oh my God, am I going to eat today? You know, for quite some time, I developed a big fear about money, you know, that I hadn't had before. I was never really a money guy. I don't need much shit. This cost me like $10, you know, I don't care about money. But all of a sudden now I do, because it was actually affecting, or at least I thought it was affecting my survival. And for a long time that was really bothering me until I developed this practice where I just look up And what I do is I look up and I see that there's a roof over my head. That's my first point. Whenever I'm feeling panicky about money, I go, roof. Now that roof tells me that at the very least in the next 5 minutes, I am not going to die of exposure. Okay? So my survival will not be destroyed by exposure at the very least. No matter how little money I have, I still have a roof. And then what I might do is I might walk out into my kitchen and open the fridge and just see if there's enough food for one more meal. Just one more. I'll look through the cupboard, even if we haven't gone shopping, I'm like, there's a bit of flour and some raisins, I could probably throw something together. And it's this kind of thing where I'm like, okay, no matter how big my money issues seem, I have survival sorted. There's a roof over my head, there's clean running water, there's enough food for one more meal. So the idea that this panicky feeling I'm having about money does not match the situation. It would probably be the right feeling to have if I was in a ditch dying of starvation and exposure. That would be about the right time to start panicking. But while I'm still comfortable in a house with food and running water, the money panic thing must be based on a fiction because nothing that bad's actually happening to me. I'm just imagining bad things happening. And this is what I relate to in the case of what this friend sent through to me. They're imagining a lot of bad things happening, but none of these things are actually happening. And what they need to start doing is practicing bringing themselves back to actual. And the difficulty or the challenge with this practice is how frequently you have to do it. Like you might have to do it 10 times in a single minute sometimes. We have to keep coming back. Like, let's say the previous example from previous workplaces is like you had a big blowout with your boss and they fired you. Like that's how the job ended. What you can keep doing is going, okay, am I currently having a big blowout with my boss? No? Okay, that hasn't happened yet. And you can do this thing where it's kind of like patting fear on the back for doing a good job. You can say, look, fear, that was a good idea. Turns out it's not actually happening yet. But you let me know as soon as it's happening. So fear, kick in when we're having a big blowout with the boss, okay? When the boss is about to fire me, then you tell me about it. But if that's not happening, you can, go back to bed. You're not needed right now. So it's kind of conversation you have with your emotions. It sounds weird, but I really do this. Like I feel that look at my bank account and it's dipping, And anybody who runs their own business knows what I'm talking about. They're kind of like, holy shit, last week I was flush and, this week I don't know if I'm going to eat. Just to look at it and just go, okay, has it actually hit that crisis point yet? No? Okay, well, fear, tell you what, come back when it has, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing for the next half an hour. And this is essentially how I deal with the situation that my friend is in, is I show up on Monday to this new job, feeling all panicky and all anxious and all the stuff that's definitely going to happen, and just look around and just go, okay, is there any actual danger signs yet? Like, is anyone saying, look, we need to talk about your future here? Is anyone yelling at me? Is anyone handing me a written warning? Is any of that happening yet? No? I'm just standing here and the person's showing me where I sit and stuff? Okay. So the fear is there, but it's not based on anything actually happening. So just take a breath. Okay, for the next half an hour at least, I know I got a job. I'll check back in half an hour, see if that's still the case. And you can do that, and I'd suggest doing this for like the first, until you don't have to do it anymore, essentially. The first couple of weeks is maybe like set a reminder on your phone, a little beep that goes off every half an hour or something. Just check in and go, okay, do I see any actual proof that I'm about to lose my job? Not just like worries about it, but proof. Like someone's like, you're going to get fired tomorrow. Proof, actual evidence. And you go, no? Okay, well, I'll check back in half an hour. So you're kind of telling fear, like, you're not fighting against fear. You're just saying, look, it was a false alarm. We'll come back to it. But thanks for reminding me. I'll keep an eye out for that. And you just keep doing it until you start to see, well, actually, it's been 2 days now and there's been no signs. It's been 5 days. It's been 3 months. Still no signs. And you're just keeping... What you're doing is you're kind of countering those cognitive biases, those ones that tell you like your previous work experience is so important, when actually the most important thing is what's happening right now, the real evidence. And so you're kind of stacking up evidence. Every half an hour, things are all good. That's 8 all goods before lunch, you know? It's kind of like, okay, I've got 8 all goods versus the memory of a bad job. Which of these pieces of evidence is more compelling? So it's not a fight against fear. It's more of a mindfulness, a grounding in reality. Is while your fear goes, oh my God, everything's fucked, you go, really? Is it, though? Is it? Like, where's the proof? Just prove it. If it is, I believe you. You know, I'm not going to fight against you. If you got this evidence, please, well, let's react. Let's fucking sort some problems out. But let's start with proof. And on that note, it's really important to know the difference between what looks like a warning sign and actual proof, because anxiety will turn everything into proof, right? Somebody will look at you funny and like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to get fired. No, they just looked at you funny. You don't know, that doesn't mean anything. That's not evidence of anything. You getting fired is a letter that says, please clear out your desk, you're done here. Or your boss saying, come into my office so I can fire you. It has to be immeasurable. Where somebody else would look at it and go, yeah, you're going to get fired, definitely. It has to be 100%. If it's not 100%, if it's not proof, then it's just fiction. And if it's just fiction, then it's just fear. Okay? I don't know if it helps or not. That's just how I would manage this situation. And understand, I guess what I want to finish off is what your brain will try to do. If you've got a string of bad experiences, a string of bad relationships, bad job experiences, failed diets, whatever it is, your brain will go, that's evidence that this one's not going to work either. And it's a weird logic because all of those situations look similar, but they're not. Okay, every job you've had before was a completely different job, completely different people, completely different activities. It's so different, it's weird to even put them in the same category together. Okay, you might as well throw going to the beach in there as well. It's so different. But your brain just goes career, so that's one category. Doesn't matter, we'll just jam everything in there. But really, it's just activities and connections with people and, you know, doing tasks. That could be anything. You might as well put your chores in there as well. And I like the saying, it kind of like it only has to work once. You know, maybe you've had 5 failed relationships, the last 5 are what you call failed relationships. You've, you know, conveniently overlooked that you've learned from each one of them and you've made progress each time. You're kind of overlooking that and just say, no, they're all failures. But they're all going to be failures until the one success. Right? That's everybody's track record, right? Everybody has nothing but failed relationships until they have one that doesn't. That's it. That's how human relationships work. Same with a career. Everybody has a shitty career until they have a good one. So that's not evidence of anything. It's just you haven't found the one yet. That's all. Keep looking. And if this job hasn't turned out like the others yet, then maybe it's still the one. So stay another day. And if this person you're dating now isn't showing the red flags and warning signs of the previous ones, then stay another day. And that's my final piece of advice on this is, in order to bring down the overwhelm, rather than thinking like, oh my God, this job better work out or it's a failure, just say, look, is it going to last another day? Do I want to do it another day? If the answer is yes, then all you need to do is postpone this worry until tomorrow. You're like, okay, we've got one more day coming up at least. I'm not fired yet. I don't hate the job yet. It's just one more day. So let's do one more day before we decide about how bad this is. And you just keep doing that at the end of each day. It's the same with a relationship. Okay, one more date. One more week together. And then I'll decide if this really is bad. And it's a great way to keep checking in, because if it is bad, you should bail, because you haven't found the thing yet. So, that's about it, really. That's my thoughts on that. That's how I deal with my money insecurities, which still come up. I still just have to breathe and go, am I dead yet? No? Okay, one more day. But this is very common. I can see there's a lot of people join the call, which is unusual. Normally I'm talking to myself like a retard, so that's nice. Thank you guys for listening, and share it with anybody you think who needs to hear it right now if it's helpful. If not, don't. And I'll see you guys all next time I see you. Cheers.